And then they also really do enjoy my feedback because I'm very honest. I'm not going to say, oh, that sounds good or that sounds bad. I'm going to tell you this part right here needs to be changed. This part doesn't fit. You picked the wrong beat, very specific things because my goal when people were paying to do it, I want you to be a better artist after having heard my feedback.
It's the ins and outs, with Mackie.
Hi, I'm Jamie Hernandez, and this is the Ins and Outs with Mackie, a show about awesome gear and awesome people. We'll be bringing you musicians, engineers, podcasters, streamers, and sometimes the occasional Mackoid. If you're new to the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite platform to get all the latest Mackie updates as soon as they're out. So our guest today wears many hats in the music industry. As an artist manager, he manages Oren Major, a young independent artist who has amassed over 10 million streams in less than 4 short years. He's a Spotify playlist curator, quickly approaching 50K followers on his playlist, Lifting Heavy Ass Weights. As a teacher in the industry, his latest artist guides have sold over 500 copies, and he has since transitioned into building an online community on Patreon with over 200 subscribers since it began in July. Here to talk about his journey and more, welcome to the show, Nick the Manager.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a great introduction. I know it's a lot of different stuff going on, but yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, let's get into it. Tell us how this journey began. I mean, like you
Okay.
said, you do a lot of different things. Where did it start?
Right. Yeah. So I think that is key. I do a lot of things because it's required, especially when you're new to the industry and trying to figure things out. So I began just as a Spotify playlister, and before that, it was never even my intention to become that. I had a workout playlist on my iPod Nano that I used at the gym every day. It was called Lifting Heavy Ass Weights, which was just a funny name. And then my cousin one day was saying, you have to get on Spotify. It's going to change your life. You find so much music. And streaming was pretty new back then. So I was like, okay, I signed up. And then the first thing I did was take all the songs that were on my iPod and make a playlist on Spotify with those, just so I could keep, working out to the music I liked. And then a few years later, I noticed that it had a couple thousand followers, and it was really unexpected. And, nobody really knew what that meant. Playlists weren't really a thing back then. And so I remember I started getting like offers to buy it. Someone offered me $100 one day on like a private message. And I was like, this is weird, like all of a sudden people were approaching me, including labels, managers, artists. And so I began working with like Universal Music Group with their streaming division, just doing all kinds of things with the playlist because playlists at that time were becoming the new radio stations, essentially. Because radio was kind of phasing out a little bit as the streaming era began. And playlists, if you got on a playlist, was similar to getting on a radio station. You have guaranteed listeners because people go to that playlist to listen to music anyways. And if you're on there, they'll find you. And so I was building up this playlist. Followers were coming in. I was getting all these offers. And then what kind of got my foot in the door as far as the music industry was the artist Oren Major, just a random person. He messaged me on Facebook, same as everyone else did, and I didn't reply. I had so many messages at the time. I just didn't have time to go through all of them. And then he followed up one day, and I listened to his music, and I loved it. And I thought, this guy, he deserves so much more attention, so much more listeners. He's just super talented, and he blew me away. And so we started talking, and I started pushing some of his music. And by that, I just added the song I liked to my playlist. That started getting some streams. And then next thing we know, it's spiking on all the algorithms, and it's kind of blowing up. And that was the first song that got 1 million streams for him. So after I had added it and I was just helping him, wherever I could as a friend, he brought up the idea of management. And at the time, I had no idea what an artist manager was. And I feel like a lot of people still really don't because I get confused as like a producer or something like that. But he asked me to be his manager. And I was like, okay, I got to figure out what that means. And so I started Googling, like, what is an artist manager? And literally just going on Google. And I said, yes, let's do it. And so the first thing I did was I contacted entertainment lawyers. So just Googled cheap entertainment lawyers, found a good one. They set me up with an LLC. They drafted a management contract. And so in July of 2017, Oren and I signed. And we've just been working together ever since.
Wow. So going back to artist management, and you had to look it up. It does get confused quite a bit. What does a manager do? What are some of the benefits a manager can provide for an artist?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. Most people have, especially artists, they have this misconception, and it's very almost delusional, where they think I have talent. Manager's going to find me. He's going to sign me, and then I'm going to blow up the next day. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be on BET, on all the Spotify playlists, and that's just really not how it works. For me, a manager is a business partner. Essentially, it's someone that you team up with who helps you strategize, helps you figure out how and where to spend your time and money, what to focus on, and then beyond all that is just really emotional support, because being an independent artist is a tough journey. And if you're doing it
Absolutely.
yourself, it's very easy to get discouraged and to give up, because there's a lot of no's that come along that path. And so I started working with him, and just I took it on myself to be a person that did everything I could do to allow him to focus on the music, because that's his job. He's the artist. He should make music. Everything else that I can do for him to make his life easier, that's what I'm going to start doing. But yeah, so that's how I started doing all these different things, essentially.
And if people just follow Oren, they'll see all the amazing things that are coming for him. For example, his one of his tracks just came out in season 2 of Love, Death, and Robots opening scene.
Now I got it booming, now I got it booming. The way that I be moving, boy, I can't be human.
What are some steps people can take to get their music into movies and television? Is step number one reaching out to a manager to help you get there, or what do you suggest?
Yeah. So yes, it's been kind of a crazy week. So Friday the show came out, and then Monday we dropped the song on all platforms. And within the last, 4 days or so, it's got 20,000 Shazams and 50,000 streams and all these tweets, and people will tweet and say, I was watching the new season and I had to stop because the song that played, I had to go look it up. And because we were lucky enough to be at the very opening scene of the show, and it made a big impact on a lot of people. So we've been trying to capitalize on that. But as far as getting into the sync world, it's actually kind of a close knit community. And we were lucky enough to get in there kind of organically. So back in 2018, this producer named Alex CSA, he goes by the Grand Mess now. He messaged me cold, and of course I didn't respond. And so he followed up a couple times. He said, and eventually we started working together. I ended up making a song with one of his beats, and then a few months later, he said, "Hey man, I'm starting to get into the sync world. Do you think Oren would want to get on some syncs?" And I was like, "Absolutely. We've been trying to do that." And so it just kind of happened. And the song that got placed on the Netflix show actually came out, or actually we sent it to them June 2019. So it took almost 2 years before
Wow.
anything happened with the song. And it's almost like a lesson in, perseverance, and not knowing when something might pay off and not giving up on it. So yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
pretty amazing. It's funny too, because when I was looking up about the whole situation, there was people on like Twitter going, "What's that song? Who's that
Yeah.
artist?" And that's just so exciting. So congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
So Nick, you are self-made. For people listening who don't know what I mean by that, you taught yourself the game independently, and you continue to share your knowledge with the sea of other independent artists. As an artist yourself, you're an artist, and we're gonna talk about that later. But
Okay.
what are some of those hard lessons you learned on your own that made you want to help others?
Yeah. So that's so I go by Nick the Manager now. It's my social handle. I was very scared to start using it because it sounded kind of weird to me at the time, but I've kind of grown into it. But essentially, my platform on social media, aside from helping my artists, is to kind of spread knowledge wherever I can. And now it's kind of my business, to where, I have subscribers, I sell guides, I teach classes. But that was never the intention in the beginning. The intention was that when Oren and I started working together, neither of us had business Instagrams. We just had our personal accounts, and that was one of the first areas I saw that we needed something. So I immediately created accounts for us, started trying to figure out what kind of content to post. For Oren, it was easy because he had music, he had streaming stats, like very interesting things. But for me, aside from sharing Oren stuff, I didn't really have any of my own content. So I just started sharing information for free just because I was trying to grow my platform, and I became this person in the industry who just answered questions. And so most of my posts, I have like 900 posts now, are screenshots of conversations where someone asked me a question and I answered it just for free, just to try and help out people. And that's what allowed me to kind of transition into it being my business, because people do trust me and I have that credibility from doing it for free for so many years.
You really built up an amazing community too. Why is it important for you to pay it forward this way?
Yeah, that it's because we didn't know anything. When we started out, I had the playlist, which obviously was a huge help, kind of got my foot in the door and gave me some leverage. But beyond that, we had no connections, we had no experience, we had no money. We were just trying to figure things out. And so for me, I really just like helping people. And if I can give you some information that will help you skip 4 years of struggle, or just teach people the things I wish I knew when I started, I'm always going to try and do that.
So aside from asking you every question that people might have, what are ways artists can learn about the music industry and develop a powerful network the way you have?
Right. So step one is to sign up for my Patreon. No, just kidding. I do
Well,
have a lot of
you're a
information.
first step for a lot of people probably.
Yeah, I mean it is. I think it's a great platform. Mine only starts at $7 per month, and I have like 100 videos on all different topics, from making your own merch to booking tours to hitting release radar, all kinds of stuff. But as far as like general knowledge and relationship building, it all comes down to etiquette. And so that's a lot of what I post as well, is when people reach out to me and they approach me either negatively or just not the way you would prefer to do it. I try to make that clear and make it like a teachable moment, because relationships are everything in this industry. And the only way to do it is by having etiquette and by not asking for things, because that's where a lot of people go wrong. They see my page, for instance, or someone else's page, and they DM them saying, manage me, or I need streams, or get me a plaque, something like that. And that doesn't do anything for you. It hurts your relationship. It prevents any possible relationship. And what I've learned and had to learn over the years is how to reach out properly. And by that, you always do your research on the person that you want to connect with. You figure out what they're doing and where you can possibly help and provide value for free without asking for anything in return. And those are always the people that get the furthest in this, because if you're only looking for handouts or to take, people feel that. And you can't fake that authenticity of just trying to give value.
So you mentioned Patreon, which is actually pretty new for a lot of people. What is Patreon in simple terms,
Right.
and what are the benefits there, if whether you're an artist or creator in general?
Yeah. So Patreon, it's actually been around for a while, but I hadn't heard of it until last year. And the reason I started mine was that we were on a national headline tour, and then the pandemic happened. So we had to kind of figure some things out, and we were all locked in. So I decided to just try it. But essentially, what it is it's its own app. It's a totally different platform from anything else. People can follow you, and then they can also subscribe to different tiers where they pay a set amount and they get certain benefits. So for mine, the base tier, like I said, is only $7 per month, and you get access to everything I've ever posted on there. And what I posted was primarily the content that was too big, too long, too private for Instagram. I didn't want to try and post a 20-minute walkthrough video of how we planned the tour, that kind of stuff. And so I posted all that on Patreon for the people who wanted to support me and also cared about the knowledge that I was putting out. But for artists, it's a great way to connect with your fans and to also allow them to support you financially. Because when you're coming up as an artist, there isn't money anywhere. I mean, the streaming rate is what, 0.003 or something. It's very difficult to make money and to, have that financial stability. So if you can convert your fan base, whether it be on social media or somewhere else, onto platform like Patreon into subscribers, they can pay just a tiny bit per month to help you thrive, and then you post content that only they get to see. So whether it be behind the scenes videos of the music video you shot, or the making of this song that everyone loves, or even personal shout outs to, the fans that are super fans. It's just a great way to have just financial stability with your super fans.
Great. How important is it to, I guess, sort of, you said this worked for you. You gave away a lot of information in the beginning at first for free to
Right.
build that kind of confidence in people. How important do you think it is to kind of play the hole in the wall bars for free until you can actually start promoting a Patreon page and trying to make
Yeah,
money out of it?
that's a question I get a lot.
You can't just dive into it, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. You can't decide I'm going to be an artist and I'm charging $1,000 for features just out of the gate. That it doesn't work. Yeah, so that's a question I get a lot from producers, engineers, artists, all kinds of people trying to figure out how to value their time and their skills and when to start charging. And the simplest answer is, first off, that there is no right answer. And I think that should make people feel better because there's no right answer. But essentially, when people want to pay you, when your services are so good that they want to pay you. But if I was talking to, like a mix engineer, for example, I would suggest do everything for free. Build up a catalog, build up credibility, build up a playlist of all these songs that you've mixed that sound amazing, to where you have that portfolio to share with potential clients, and then set your price. But you have to have something to show or to leverage before you can start charging. And what you charge just depends, again, on what people are willing to pay.
Wow, definitely. Thank you for the insider
Yeah.
information. So you heard it, folks. Free lesson right there. So you've begun doing frequent Twitch streams and have started a weekly Saturday song reviews segment.
Yeah.
And this is where you give your honest feedback to help artists.
Right.
Well, first of all, you want to talk a little bit about that and get into how people can submit their songs to you?
Yeah. So it's pretty new for me. If we take it back, 4 years ago, as I started my Nick the Manager page, I never had my face anywhere. I was always behind the scenes. I made it a point not to share my name or my picture or anything like that because I was just kind of afraid of putting myself out there. Um, but I had to. People wanted to see me, they wanted to know about me, they wanted to hear me speak, because I had insights from my experience working with Oren. And so the Twitch streams, they actually came out of the pandemic as well. So prior to starting the Patreon, like the couple months leading up to it, I started doing weekly song contests where you could buy a ticket. We'd have like 40 entries, and we give away some money or some playlist spots, or some kind of value. And we did that, I think, 9 weekends in a row, 9 Saturdays in a row. Um, and that's where the stream started. And then I kind of stepped back from that as I began the Patreon. And then I brought it back now that the Patreon's kind of set up. And people have been asking for it. They always want a shot at, my playlist because I am a playlist curator. And then they also really do enjoy my feedback because I'm very honest. I'm always going to tell you, I'm not going to say, oh, that sounds good or that sounds bad. I'm going to tell you this part right here needs to be changed. This part doesn't fit. You picked the wrong beat, very specific things, because my goal when people were paying to do it was to give you something that changes the music you make. I want you to be a better artist after having heard my feedback, because I feel like that's the value I can provide. But yeah, so I changed that whole format, and with you guys, Mackie, sponsoring me, thank you so much for that. I'm doing weekly streams totally for free. They're going to be on my Twitch at Nick the Manager. And we're going to be doing monthly giveaways of some kind of bundle or gear. And yeah, it's free to submit. You can go to nickthemanager.com, and it's the first link on my website. You fill out the form, and then you tune in on Saturdays when I stream, and you'll get your free song review, and I'll try and give you critique that will help you become a better artist.
Wow, that's awesome. How exciting. And we're so excited to have you
Yeah.
in partnership with Mackie. So thank you for that. And all those giveaways have been so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
So keep those going. We love them. Let's talk about your Airbnb-style lodging/recording studio, Rap House Phoenix.
Yeah. So This is that studio actually. So I'm sitting in my studio that I built. We called it Rap House Phoenix because it's a studio and it's a house, and it's in Phoenix kind of. Um, but yeah, so the story goes back to 2018. I had just begun working with Oren for about 6 months, and my lease at my apartment was coming up. And I was thinking somewhat seriously about getting a house. Like maybe I didn't really want one. I didn't want to be tied down anywhere. I didn't want a mortgage. But I was talking with Oren. I'm like, hey, if I did get a house, we could have a studio. You could come live there. I had a couple other friends who were in music who wanted to come live here too. And so I bought a 5-bedroom house. Turns out none of them came and lived with me. So I'm in this house by myself. But I got the house, and then I immediately, the first night, started tearing out this room. And I tore down the walls, the ceiling, the floor, and then just built it up over 2018. So the entire year, one weekend at a time, paycheck by paycheck, I built up the room completely insulated. I mean, I got Roxol the insulation. I have these isolation rails. I have mass loaded vinyl. I've just all the stops, because I wanted a studio where it was actually soundproof enough to where everyone else could sleep and you weren't disturbed by the music that was going on. So that video is available on my Patreon as well. But throughout 2018, I built the studio, and then in 2019, I started running it as a professional recording studio. So we had this room running, and then we also had rooms upstairs that were converted into studios as well. And that was working okay. I had some issues with the engineers that I had hired. A couple of them were living here at the time. And I decided that the, $30-$40 an hour wasn't really making sense. And so I decided to reach out randomly to people on tour. I just had this idea. I figured, who's coming to town? Maybe we can get them to come stay at the house and use the studio, because it is kind of a unique offer where when artists are on tour, they're worn down. They're staying in hotels, if that. They're staying in, crowded Airbnbs. They're sleeping in the van. They don't have home cooked food. They don't have showers. They don't have anything. And so if I can give them home cooked meal, showers, room enough for everyone to sleep, and a studio for them to relax and make some music and just chill out, I figured, what's the worst that could happen? So I started reaching out, and the first person that I actually got in here was Earl Sweatshirt. And what's crazy about that is the manager of Earl at the time was Tupac's first manager.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know that, but I had reached out to her. She said, yeah, let me think about it. And then I got a call the night before saying, yeah, let's do it. And so she stuck her neck out for me to get these people into a stranger's house, this, multi-millionaire rapper staying at this house. And it was pretty star shock.
Wow.
Is that the word? Star shock?
Starstruck?
Starstruck. Thank you. Yeah, it was very weird seeing a really famous person for the first time, walking into your house. So I built up the studio, started just cold emailing everyone who's coming to town. I was just looking up the local venue calendars, seeing who might be interested, and then just Googling their contact. And so we got Earl Sweatshirt in here. And then after we had that credibility, common theme, someone famous in here, everyone else was more likely to say yes. And so we did probably 12 different artists. It was like Earl Sweatshirt and Ari Lennox and Chris Webby and Locksmith and Mark Battles and
Wow.
all these people. And then the last person we had was Jack Harlow, who ended up blowing up just huge right after that. So it was a very interesting experience. I'd have them come stay at the house. I'd do whatever I could. So, I'd go to the shows with them. I'd run the merch tables. I'd carry stuff. I'd pack stuff, whatever they needed. I'd run to Guitar Center when, their in-ear monitors broke, just trying to provide value and build some kind of relationship. And then, of course, do all the sheets, wash the whole house, vacuum everything, and then go to work in the morning. So it was a very tolling time, but very, very fun.
Well, now that we've spoken about your studio, let's go ahead and take a look inside and check out some of those artists you've worked with.
What's up, y'all? It's Jack Harlow. I'm staying at Rap House with my boy. Appreciate you having us, man, for real. Good dude right here.
Now I got it booming, now I got it booming. The way that I be moving, boy, I can't be human. Ay, wish you wanted Gucci, but
I've been in a rap house, Phoenix. A lot of hospitality, a lot of good vibes. Bring the squad.
now I got it booming, now I got it booming. Now I got it booming, now I got it booming. The way that I be moving, boy, I can't be human.
What's up? It's Greaves at the Rap House. Thank you for having us, man. If you guys are coming through Phoenix, make sure you come to the Rap House.
Now I got it booming, now I got it booming. Now I got it booming, now I got it booming. Now I got it booming, now I got it booming.
It's the ins and outs.
Takes.
Ins and outs.
Takes.
With Mackie.
So now it's time for our ins and outtakes, which is a rapid fire of random questions. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Yes, I wasn't prepared. That's the point.
Okay.
So we're gonna keep it easy to begin with. Who are some of your favorite artists you have worked with? I know you named a few.
Yeah. So one of my favorite artists is Greaves. He's an artist from Seattle. He's a veteran in the industry, 15 years of touring and just being an independent artist. And he came and stayed when Chris Webby came through. And what's funny about that is we actually formed a pretty good relationship to where they came and stayed here a couple times, and then we opened a show for them in Hawaii. So July 2019, I saw that Greaves had a show in Hawaii, and I said, hey, if we make it out there, can we open for you? And they said yes. And so we flew out there, and I have family. My mom lives out there, my uncle's out there, so it made sense. So we flew out there, we opened a show for them, and we hung out with Greaves all week just because I had met them while they were here on the Rap House stuff.
Wow, that's awesome. If you weren't a musician, what's another career you would have liked to explore? Well, Nick the manager, what would you have been? Nick the...
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe realtor. I feel like real estate and houses, and especially after having gone through like a build / renovation project here, it was just very fun. And I like looking at houses, so I think realty would be cool.
Cool. What have been some of your favorite events you've been a part of, or maybe one particular one that comes to mind, whether online or just in general?
Yeah. So one of hands down the best event that we were able to put together was 2019 March. We booked him his first headline show ever, and it was at the Masquerade in Atlanta, and we had 150 people come out, and they were all wearing his merch and his logo.
Wow.
And then we had all of our friends open, so it was a lineup of all of us just hanging out, killing the show, and it was just a really great time. And to see Oren standing out there with the crowd and then bringing his mom over, it was just a very sentimental thing.
Wow. If you could tell your younger self something, what would it be, Nick?
If it was before when I got on Spotify, I would say get on Spotify, because that changed my life.
It's gonna work. I know it. What are you looking forward to this year?
This year, probably the Twitch streams. That's kind of the new thing that I'm pursuing. And then also the sync stuff. So we got the first placement on the Netflix show. We actually have another really cool one coming out that I can't talk about yet, but hopefully many more this year as well.
So you handle a ton of artists. Do you have any guilty pleasure artists you like to listen to?
Oh, Nicki Minaj.
I don't think that's really guilty pleasure, though.
I think as a guy in the music industry, maybe.
This is true.
But yeah, I don't know. I do like all kinds of music, and I didn't actually start in hip hop. My first favorite band was Green Day,
nice.
and then Yellow Card, Blink-182. So I've kind of listened to everything, but yeah, Nicki Minaj is the one that I try to defend, but a lot of people aren't with it.
I defend. So you're also an artist, and you go by the name Kiali'i. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Anything new we can look forward to there?
Oh man, it's been a rough year. One of my artists, Ramosa, he did just send me this open verse that I really like. So I'll probably try and record on that. But yeah, I have a few songs out. If you guys want to go check it out, Kiali'i with an apostrophe. It's my Hawaiian middle name.
And it means chief.
It
Make
does,
sure to
yes.
check that out. So I like that a lot. So what's better, being a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? I'm really curious on your answer about this.
Yeah, so I feel like you're kind of always both. So within my community, I am a big fish. People look up to me, they follow me, they look to me for information. But then in the grand scheme of things, especially when I'm working with people like Jack Harlow, I'm a very small fish in a big pond. Um, and I think both can be of value because when you are the big fish, it instills this confidence that you need. Because I'm naturally an introvert, I had to learn how to speak to people and be self-confident, especially when I'm teaching these group classes, which is crazy. But that being the big fish has to give you that confidence, and then that carries through to when you are the small fish to have the confidence to become a big fish in that next pond.
Would you say showing your face and starting to be really proactive visually that helped with that process?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's very similar to artists not wanting to put out music. They're afraid of the response and the reception, and you're vulnerable. And yeah, I mean, when I started putting out my face and I started getting people responding to the content, the first thing I did was start posting consultation clips. So we recorded some consultations I was doing. We cut those into 2-minute like snippets of vital information, and then people loved it and they liked hearing me talk, and I was like, this is weird. And so it kind of just went from there.
And I think it takes away from the intimidation of talking to someone who's like really into music. You think of an engineer and you try to be careful about how you talk to
Right.
them. You don't want to sound, like you don't know
Yeah,
stuff.
I totally
Anyway,
get it.
so my favorite question to ask: who would play you in the movie of your life?
um I One of my favorite actors is Mark Wahlberg. I think he's awesome. I always wanted to be like him. If we could get him in the movie, that'd be awesome.
I love that. That's great. So, anything else you want to share? Any websites, upcoming shows, streams, events, Nick?
Yeah, so Twitch streams every Saturday, sponsored by Mackie. You can go to nickthemanager.com to submit. And then if you haven't already, check out Love, Death, and Robots Season 2 on Netflix. The very first song after the intro is my artist Oren Major's. It's called Got It Boomin'. And then there will be another opportunity like that this coming week. So I wish I could share that, but I can't. And then beyond that, we're probably going to get back on tour. So if you're interested, connect with us on Instagram, Nick the Manager, Oren.Major. And we're going to be booking some shows. So hopefully we'll come to your city and we can connect.
Before we leave, who do you think we should have on the show?
Oren Major.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick. It's been fantastic getting to know you.
You
Good
too.
luck with everything and just keep doing your thing, man. Thank you for all you're doing for artists out there.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was great.
Once again, I'm Jamie Hernandez. This is the Ins and Outs with Mackie, a show about awesome gear and awesome people. We'll be bringing you musicians, engineers, podcasters, streamers, and sometimes the occasional Mackoid. If you're new to the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite platform to get all the latest Mackie updates as soon as they are out. Until next time, Mackoids.
It's the ins and outs.